President of the Security Council, distinguished members of the Security Council, Your Excellency Mr. Ismail Cherugui, African Union Commissioner for Peace and Security, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I thank His Excellency Mr. Ismail Cherugui for his presence here today. I attach the highest importance to close ties with the African Union. We at the United Nations will continue to work hand in hand with you to promote development and lasting peace across the continent. The crisis that continues to unfold in the Central African Republic poses a test for the entire international community. The situation in the country has been on the agenda of the Security Council for many years now. But today's emergency is of another, more disturbing magnitude. It is a calamity with a strong claim on the conscience of humankind. Over the past year, we have seen in quick succession the violent overthrow of the government, the collapse of state institutions, and the descent into lawlessness and sectarian brutality. More than 2.5 million people, more than half the population, need immediate humanitarian assistance. The new acting head of state, Madame Catherine Samba Panza, is committed to building a state authority, and I commend her valiant efforts. But with no budget, hardly any resources, and pervasive poverty, her abilities are sharply constrained. The path towards the restoration of state authority will be a long one. Innocent civilians are being killed in large numbers. These victims are not so-called collateral damage from fighting between rebel groups. They are being killed purposefully, targeted for their religious belief, for their community affiliation, for who they are. Muslims in particular are being targeted, but the ex-Selaka continue to attack Christians as well. Almost 1 million people have been displaced, with many homes burned to the ground with the purpose of preventing their return. Whole populations are being moved. A creeping de facto partition of the country is setting in, with the Muslims in one part and Christians in another. This separation is laying the seeds of conflict and instability for years, maybe generations to come. The African Union and France have deployed the troops to the Central African Republic to help stem the violence. We owe those leaders and soldiers our gratitude for saving so many lives and providing protection where they can. We owe Miska and Sangaris our solidarity and assistance. However, given the scale and geographic breadth of the violence, the security requirements far exceed the capabilities of the number of international troops now deployed. In places where there are no international forces, the choice for far too many civilians is to flee or be killed. Madam President, distinguished members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, the human family must not shy away from what is happening today in the Central African Republic, or from our responsibilities, both yours and mine, under the United Nations Charter. Events in the CAR have implications across the region and summon us to defend universal values as well. This complex security, humanitarian, human rights, and political crisis demands a comprehensive and integrated response. The United Nations is working with the African Union, the Economic Community of Central African States, the European Union, and the World Bank to address the country's diverse challenges. But those efforts will prove fruitless unless we do more to end the atrocity crimes, destruction of communities, and mass displacement of populations. The Security Council has asked for my recommendations for a future UN peacekeeping operation, and I will soon report to you on the outlines of a mission with a robust mandate to protect civilians and promote stability. But the deployment of a peacekeeping operation, if authorized, will take months. The people of Central African Republic do not have months to wait. The international community must act decisively now to prevent any further worsening of the situation and to respond to the dire needs of the country's people. In that spirit, I propose today a 6-point initiative to address the greatest risks being faced by the people of the Central African Republic. The first and most important, I call for the rapid reinforcement of the African Union and French troops now on the ground with additional deployments of at least 3,000 more troops. These new personnel, including formed police units, should deploy as soon as possible in the coming days and weeks and have the necessary mobility, including air mobility, to be able to operate wherever required. AU Commission President Zuma has informed me that she will propose an expansion of MISCA to the AU Peace and Security Council. I welcome her initiative and urge members of the PSC to endorse it. President Hollande of France has announced that Sangaris will be reinforced by some 25% to a total of 2,000. In addition, the European Union is poised to increase its planned deployment from 500 to 1,000 with an initial operating capacity on the ground in early March. I'm grateful for these commitments, but more are needed quickly, and the wider international community must share the burden. Second, I propose that all international forces in the Central African Republic be brought under a coordinated command, and that the mission of these forces be focused on the most urgent priorities, containing the violence, protecting civilians, preventing further displacement, creating a secure environment for the delivery of humanitarian assistance, and laying the groundwork for the handover to a United Nations peacekeeping forces as soon as possible. Third, I propose that the African troops that join this force be provided with the logistic and financial support, including rations, water and fuel, and reimbursement for their major non-lethal military equipment. The estimated cost of this package, consisting of the bare essentials, would be $38 million for a 6-month bridging period. Fourth, I call for rapid, tangible support to the government of the Central African Republic to help it establish a minimum capacity to function. This support should include the financial assistance necessary to get police back on the streets, judges back in the courtrooms, and prison guards back on the jobs. I am pleased to announce that today, Denmark confirmed a contribution of $2 million to this initiative, and I intend to see these resources put to use quickly. Norway has also confirmed today that it will make a donation to this effort. Fifth, I call for the acceleration of a political and reconciliation process to prevent the further fraying of the communal bonds and to lay the ground for an end to conflict. Community and religious leaders will have an especially important role to play in promoting tolerance, peaceful coexistence, and non-violence. A political process will also require the dynamic engagement of ECAS, the AU, and the international community. I would like to pay particular tribute to the tireless efforts of the ECAS chief mediator, President Denis Sassou Nguesso of the Republic of Congo. The United Nations is reinforcing BINUCA's analytical and operational capabilities so that we can help the national authorities to put the transition back on track, expand the state authority, and establish credible institutions throughout the country. Accountability and justice measures must be key elements of any peace and reconciliation process. More immediately, such measures will contribute to the prevention of ongoing human rights violations. I am pleased to announce that the chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry, mandated by this Security Council, along with an advanced team, will arrive in the Central African Republic to take up their important work. Sixth and finally, I appeal for urgent funding for humanitarian aid, which is currently insufficient to address the crisis. Only 15% of the resources needed for this year have been received, despite generous pledges made at last month's funding conference in Brussels. My emergency relief coordinator, Valerie Amos, is in the Central African Republic. She has expressed shock at what she saw in Bosangwa today and noted that tensions between communities are high and that people fear for their lives. She stressed the need for more troops on the ground to provide the security and protection across the country. Madam President, distinguished members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, over the past few days, my senior colleagues and I have reached out to dozens of member states to seek their support for my proposals. I have been encouraged by the positive responses. Some are considering sending additional troops and police. Others have pledged to provide budget support for the government. These commitments will bring tangible dividends in the coming days. The United Nations, for its part, thanks to generous support from Canada and others, has allocated $5 million from the MISCA Trust Fund to provide essential communications equipment to African troops, and those items are being delivered in Bangui as I speak. The sixth point I have put just forward aims to support and complement the hard work now being carried out by a range of actors. It is designed to achieve the most pressing objectives: stabilizing the security situation and saving lives that would otherwise be lost to senseless sectarian hatreds. The proposals call for contributions from many quarters, and they also compel us to avoid a piecemeal approach in which some proposals receive more support than others. To succeed, the proposals must be embraced and implemented as an integrated whole. Distinguished members of the Security Council, we know what is happening in the Central African Republic. We know why it is different from previous outbreaks of violence. We know why it matters to all of us and what we must do. Knowledge is not all we have. Through collective action, as envisaged by the United Nations Charter, we have the power to stop the killing and save the Central African Republic from its current nightmare. I urge the Council to support my proposal, and I urge Member States to take the action necessary to implement it. Let us assure the people of the Central African Republic that the United Nations stands with them and that the support they so urgently need is on its way. This is our shared responsibility. The people of the Central African Republic have asked for our help. I urge you to join me and respond to that call. Thank you very much.
I thank the Secretary General for his statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Ismail Cherki, Commissioner for Peace and Security of the African Union.
Madame la Présidente du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies, Monsieur le Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, distingués représentants des pays membres du Conseil de sécurité, Mesdames et Messieurs, nous voilà réunis pour débattre d'une situation grave qui fait l'objet d'une attention internationale croissante. Nous espérons ardemment que la présente session fera date en ce qu'elle marquera une étape nouvelle et déterminante dans la mobilisation internationale en faveur de la République centrafricaine. Je remercie le Conseil de sécurité des Nations unies pour le suivi permanent réservé à cette question. Je voudrais tout particulièrement exprimer la gratitude de l'Union africaine à la présidente du Conseil pour avoir eu l'obligeance et l'élégance de décaler la présente réunion pour permettre à notre délégation d'y participer. Permettez aussi que je réitère au nom de la présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Dr Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, l'appréciation de l'Union africaine à Monsieur le secrétaire général des Nations unies, Monsieur Ban Ki-moon, pour son engagement soutenu et son implication personnelle pour alléger les souffrances du peuple centrafricain. Au cours des derniers jours, le secrétaire général et la présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine ont régulièrement communiqué sur ce qu'il convient d'entreprendre pour contribuer au renforcement de l'action internationale en faveur de la République centrafricaine. Ces échanges sont une illustration supplémentaire de leurs préoccupations communes face à cette stratégie, ainsi que leur conviction d'une réponse internationale efficace doit nécessairement